The Powertrain Perspective podcast is sponsored by TranStar Aftermarket Solutions.
Welcome to Powertrain Perspective. I'm Bobby Mace, the publisher of the Transmission Digest brand, and today I thought we'd talk about hard parts, a lot of talk about tariffs and availability and pricing and whatnot. So I grabbed one of the experts that I know in the industry, and that's Fred Burkhart. Fred has been around for somewhere around, if not longer than 40 years in this industry. And through mergers and acquisitions, he's worked for a variety of companies. Most recently, TTXE Powertrain Components, which is Fred's company and is a sales organization that works with some of the brands of Freudenberg Knock. Welcome, Fred, and tell us a little more about yourself and your company.
Okay. Well, thanks, Bobby. I began my aftermarket career at Transtech many years ago. And as you know, they're a kit manufacturer in Ohio. I worked there for 12 years, and then I started my own company, Toledo Transkit. And then Filtran acquired that company, so I left them and began a new company called TTXE, in which I specialized in hard parts. And I did a lot of research and found a couple of co-partners in manufacturing that had OEM capabilities. Quality was the primary mission. OE quality or better.
And for the most part, what you were selling there is something we know as aftermarket new parts. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And those are the parts that I think are going to see the effects of the tariff more than used parts, which is the other option other than the few OE original parts that may be available on the market.
That's true. That's true. Although the used part market is getting kind of dicey too because of the scrap values.
Well, I'd hope to talk about that. I know there are companies that harvest parts out of transmissions. Most of them also harvest parts out of engines, and
Yes.
and I know that their choice is to harvest that part and put it on the shelf as inventory, or to include it in the sections of the transmission or engine that they're going to melt down for steel, aluminum, etc.
Yes, that is correct.
So, what's the effect? In other words, when that price of scrap metal goes up, does that mean we're going to have fewer parts available as used parts?
Yes, it is. With the used parts, with prices of scrap going up, it's going to be more difficult to obtain those.
Because people are melting them down.
Well, they're melting them down, crushing them, scrapping them. Yeah, that's right. All of that.
Okay. And then this brings about the need for an aftermarket new part, something you're an absolute expert in. And those mostly come from overseas, correct?
Yes, sir. That is true. From a variety of countries. Taiwan, Korea, India, and China.
And so all of those then are going to fall into the net that's tariffs charged. However, the cost of parts in an automatic transmission rebuild particularly is a less than 50% of the cost, or I should say of the price of getting that transmission rebuilt is reflected in hard parts in the first place. So it's not quite as dire as it may seem, but what are the effects that you see of tariffs as far as the flow of those parts, the availability, and obviously the cost is sensitive to that and would go up?
Well, I mean, hard parts and the tariffs are going to be a challenge. They already are. Uh, Tariffs are running anywhere between 25 to 35%, and in some cases, like India, 50%.
Yeah, but if it's 50% and the parts are 30% of the price, then you're really talking about 12, 13% maybe of the
Of the
finished
actual cost.
rebuild.
Yeah, that's right.
So people are going to be seeing prices increase for virtually any hard part that they need to purchase because it doesn't matter whether it's used and fighting the scrap metal prices, which are also tariffed, or if it's the aftermarket new part, those prices are going to go up, but not necessarily so much that a person would say, "Hey, I'm not going to rebuild this transmission. I think I'll skip that fun."
No, I don't think. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that's going to be the case. No one likes price increases, but that's been the world we live in now for over a year, and it's been
Yeah.
steady.
So you think that going forward, have we seen the price increase? Is there going to be some more? Is it going to, at some point, I assume it plateaus?
I think it's almost there at this point, meaning plateaued.
All right. Well, Fred, I appreciate it. You are the expert on this. You've years of experience, and I know everybody in the shops. When as I talked to shops and saw them at the show recently, the talk is tariff and what's it going to do to my profit line? What's it going to do for the cost of doing business? And I think you've answered some of that, and we so much appreciate your time today on Powertrain Perspective.
Oh, my pleasure.